I am Anitra Steele, Chair of the Forums Committee. This forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Kansas City, Jackson, Clay, and Platte counties, and by Suburban Balance, an Alpha Kappa Alpha advocate for social justice initiative of chapters Beta Omega and Psi Tau Omega. This forum will be recorded and is available on the League's webpage, lwvkc.org, and on YouTube. The League of Women Voters is a trusted, grassroots, nonpartisan organization whose members do the hands on work to safeguard democracy. While we neither endorse or oppose candidates or political parties, we are directly involved in sharing the important issues. Our mission is to empower voters and defend our democracy. We envision a democracy where every citizen has the knowledge, the right, and the confidence to participate, also the desire. Our membership is open to everyone. I'd like for you to know the other League members volunteering with me. Cindy Schmidt is our timekeeper, and our Zoom is monitored by Terry Lane. The public has sent in questions via the League's website, lwvkc.org. Tonight, we welcome our moderator, Charlie Keegan, KSHB 41 News and Politics reporter. Welcome, Charlie. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Anitra, and good evening, everyone. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here and to be moderating tonight's forum. We've got the Lee Summit School Board candidates here today. This Board of Education is a volunteer representative body elected by registered voters of the local public school district. The board governs the school district and provides leadership and advocacy for public education. School board members serve a 3-year term. Now, tonight's forum should last about 90 minutes. I'm going to be asking each candidate the same questions, and these questions came from people like you, voters, who submitted them to the League of Women Voters. Now, the order in which candidates respond to the questions has been determined by a random order, and will rotate. So each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer the question, and then we'll have a 2-minute closing statement at the very end for each candidate. The League of Women Voters invited all the candidates running for the seats to tonight's forum, and we welcome the ones that are here with us today. So candidates, I want you to please just answer the question that I asked, try to stick on the topic, and remember, you can always go back to a certain question in your closing remarks. We're not doing any rebuttals or back and forth debate, but if you do have something that is very important to you, make a note and include it in your 2-minute closing remarks at the end. So with that, I'm ready to go. I hope you guys are too. Our first question is very much just about you, very introductory, and then the rest of the questions are a little bit more on topic about school boards. And so with each question, I'll tell you who's answering first, and then I'll read the question aloud so that you can prepare a little bit. So Roger K. Sparks will be the first to answer this question. And the question is, please introduce yourself and give us your qualifications to serve on the school board. Roger.
Hi, I first would like to take this time to thank the Women League of Voters for giving us this opportunity to be able to join with you all tonight, along with all of the virtual audience that is present. My name is Roderick Sparks. Someone asked, what does the K mean? My middle name is King. And so that is my name, and I am very proud of my name. What qualifies me to run for the Board of Education? I will tell you that I think being a parent qualifies me. I think being someone that has empathy and compassion and concern for public education qualifies me for the Board of Education. I have had the privilege and the honor of serving before, also selected by my peers of being able to serve as board president. Through that journey, I've been able to serve students, serve our staff, and serve our community of making sure that we protect public education and also making sure that whatever students need, that they actually receive. I will tell you through that journey, I've also been able to partner with MSBA and receive the Distinguished Certification, which is the highest level of governance certification for board service. When it comes to What qualifies me? I really don't believe that it's me. I think it's simply just a servant heart, being able to care for others and make sure that we protect the sanctity of public education that every single student deserves to receive, if that is what each family decides for them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The all right, great. So the next candidate to answer the question will be Camille Johnson. Please introduce yourself and give us your qualifications to serve on the school board.
Okay. Hi, my name is Dr. Camille Johnson, and I am running for school board. I am an incumbent. I am currently on your school board. I was originally elected in 2023. So with me, I bring experience and understanding and institutional knowledge of the district in which we are currently reside in. I also wanted to say thank you to everyone participating on this call, whether it be a moderator, one of my co-candidates, or anyone else listening. So another reason I think I qualify is that I have built relationships with people in the district that I find to be very fascinating and encouraging. I think that it's extremely important that we have these relationships with board leadership so that we can do things like protect the public schools and their funding so that we can remain fiscally responsible with our budgeting, considering cuts and things that are happening with the Department of Education and our educational system and taxes. I think it's also important to ensure that we are removing barriers to education, and I'm able to see what some of those barriers are currently being on the board. So this would not be new for me to do. You would be bringing in a person who has experience and who has worked with some of the other co-candidates here on the board as well. I do think it's important to engage the public, and I think it's important to keep in mind that all students deserve to have education. It is their right to have that education, and I want to make sure I support a community that can do that, and I can do that by being on the board.
Thank you so much. Erica Miller, you're last here. Please introduce yourself and give us your qualifications to serve on the school board.
Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you, Charlie. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and all that are attending. My name is Erica Miller, and I too am currently serving on the school board. And what I want to tell you is, and if you've heard me speak, you know you've heard this before, but I love this work. That is one of the things that qualifies me, I believe, because I am passionate about it. I have led through action for the last 3 years. You'll find me regularly in the classroom, supporting students and teachers. I also have 3 children in the district, and so I am focused really this journey. I was led to this journey because of my kids, and and I and now that I've been here, I've really been focusing on making sure each and every child has the opportunities to be successful in the classroom. And so I would love the opportunity to continue to serve and just show that my compassion and passion for this work.
Thank you so much. So the next questions are all about topics that you might deal with as a school board member. And we're going to start with Dr. Camille Johnson for this first question.
Okay.
It's please name 2 areas in which the Lee Summit schools excel and 2 areas that need improvement.
So I think 2 areas in which the Lee Summit LSR 7 excels is preparing our students for success in life. So we do provide our students, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I have a motion sensor in my office. So we provide students with market value assets. So these market value assets prepare the students to enroll in college, to enlist in the military, or to go directly into the workforce. And that is extremely important because we want to make productive citizens, and we've done an excellent job of that. Our graduates are graduating with over 90% of them having what we call a market value asset. Another thing I think we do a good job at is being fiscally responsible, managing our budget and continuing to managing our reserves, or what we others in personal life we would call our savings, to ensure that we have the resources needed. and stability. That stability comes because we've had our superintendent for quite some time, and then we do have board members who can come back and return to provide that stability. Two things in which I think we can improve upon. I think we can improve upon the pay that we provide for teachers and staff, in particular our paras. They are dealing with sometimes some of our most challenging students or our students who need most help. So I think that that's one of the things that we can improve upon. And I also think we can continue to improve upon how we give students access to all of the additional courses that are available, especially at the high school or middle school level, such as advanced classes, honors courses, IB courses, so that they can succeed.
Thank you so much, and we'll let you get your light turned back on. Erica Miller, you're next to answer this question. Name 2 areas in which LSR7 excels and 2 areas where you could see improvement.
Sure. Well, the great thing about LSR7, it's a destination district. It's why I moved to the district for my family. It's why a lot of families move to Lee Summit because we do a lot of things well. So this one's easy. We have a lot of things to say about all the good things that are happening in our district. One of the things that I would say is we have established a pre-K program. Pre-K is so very important for our littlest learners. We know that when we provide the resources for our kiddos at the young ages, they do better. They do better. The graduation rates are better. Their success rates within their academic career as a whole are better. So we have a pre-K program, and it's available to all LSR7 residents. Along with that pre-K, we have some steps around that. We have our Great Beginnings program, which provides some additional services for students that may be struggling a little bit, and also parents as teachers. Another one is our STA program. STA provides opportunities for our students to be able to explore opportunities of various careers. So a student can come in and learn about nursing, learn about technology, learn about so many things before they ever even leave our district. And so I have 5 seconds left. I think our one thing is connecting with our community a little bit more would be one of my
All right.
things that I would say that we should improve on.
Thank you so much. And then Roderick Sparks, 2 items that you think LSR7 excels in and 2 areas that need improvement.
I think Camille and Erica did a wonderful job sharing the things that we're doing great, and even some rooms for opportunity. If I had to add on to that, it would simply be celebrating our graduation rates. We are doing a great job. We have phenomenal teachers that are actually educating our students, and they're graduating and going on to farther their life. Perhaps that is going to a 4-year college, 2-year college, or military, or going just straight into the profession of a career path through a trade. I think also as a thing to brag about, it would be the fact that we have so many opportunities for our students to take advantage of. The Airspace Academy, having the completion of our new hangar that's at the airport. We just have some things as a district that other districts don't have, and they envy us as a destination district, as was previously stated. I think opportunities of growth would be our educational gaps. They do exist, and we need to continue to find out what are some things that we can do as a district to be able to close those gaps, so that all kids are performing at the maximum potential that each one of them have. I think the other thing that we could continue to work on is our communication. When I was on the board, we went through a communication audit. I was not there to kind of see the implementation of some of the things that needed to happen, but we need to do a better job of really communicating with our families. And as an elected official, we have to seek those opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Roderick, you're going to answer the next 2 questions first, so buckle up. That's just the random order here. This question, though, is what specific actions will you take to increase the role of parents in decision making and promote parental involvement in schools?
So I love that question because Camille, Erica, we've been able to work together. And one of the things that we were able to do was to start dinner with the board. Often before I got there, the conversations were how can we engage our community a lot more. And the Dinner with the Board was created so that we can actually touch those that are in the community. That is from our parents, that's grandparents, that is from individuals that may not even have children, but they're taxpayers. So that therefore their voice also should matter. And then last but not least, but also our students. And so we have to continue to look for opportunities to be able to engage with the community so that we can be able to hear from them directly on what they want for their school system in the community that they live in. I think not only do we have dinner with the board, but I think with our student reps, so often we have to be able to look at the educational access that our kids are having, but then also what is the educational environment? What is the culture like for them? And so being able to hear directly from them is also other opportunities of being able to make sure that there's parent involvement with the education daily life. We have to go to them. We can't always expect them to come to us. When I think of my parents, they worked. They worked hard. They worked multiple jobs. And so always being able to show up was something they wasn't able to do. Not that they didn't want to do it, they couldn't do it. And so we have to take that into account, and we have to go where they are to know that we want parents involved in this educational process.
Thank you, sir. Erica Miller, you're next to answer this question. What specific actions will you take to increase the role of parents in decision-making and promote parental involvement in the schools?
Yeah, it's a great question, like Roderick said, and I love the points that he made. I think I'll add on to that by saying that I really feel like, a lot of parent involvement really starts at the building level. That's where parents have the connection, right? So, along with our dinner with the boards, which have been extremely successful, and I love those, and we're going to continue those hopefully. I think at the building level, just making sure that we have resources, that we have that connection point at the building level for families to be able to access. Because, like Roderick said, I mean, sometimes it's not about not wanting to, it's about the ability, the access, the bandwidth. And so, really easing that access by having opportunities within the school or connecting them with the resources that will help them feel connected and be able to be involved with their students' education. I think it's really important for parents to be able to also be able to build relationship with their kids' teachers and the other people in the building. So I think those are important touch points that sometimes we kind of miss out on, when we're thinking about global. And I think we need to start thinking about the micro levels of what's happening inside of each building and where parents have access on a daily basis.
Thank you so much. Okay, Dr. Johnson, what specific actions will you take to increase the role of parents in decision-making and promote parental involvement?
So I think one of the things we realized coming out of the last couple of years with dinners with the board is people do want to be involved. And although we have different committees and we ask the community to get involved and we reach out to them, it seems like we get very similar active members. We get the same people participating. So a concern is how do we reach those who want to participate and are not, so that we're not getting that same group of parents coming in or the same group of community members. So I know that the community relations department is looking at how to expand that, because we receive that as feedback that we don't see enough diversity of the people in the community participating in those. So I would like to work with that individual department to see what can we do to go beyond our reach. Again, I believe, like Mr. Sparks said, we're going to have to go to the people and not just expect them to go to us. I know we have websites and I know we have telephones and things, but if you go on a website, it could be quite a few clicks in order to get to what we're looking for. And so increasing that also, that was something a part of communications audit that Mr. Sparks also talked about, is ensuring that it is accessible, it's easy to get to. So we need to find ways of simply getting this information out to people so that they can be involved, and not just involved if it only impacts their child. Because as a community, we all want similar things for our children and for our schools. And so I think that that's what I would like to do. Figure out how do we reach the people who are not getting reached, but they absolutely want to be involved in some way.
Thank you so much. And yeah, we
I
get a
love the music.
soundtrack today. Yeah. Roderick, I said you're going to answer two questions in a row first. So we're right back putting you in the hot seat here for this one. How should the district approach artificial intelligence and emerging technologies in the classroom?
This is another good question because it is here and it's here to stay. And so, what we have to do is, I believe that number one, there has to be a policy created for the district. I know that when I was serving on the board previously, there were kind of the start of having the conversations. We were waiting for MSBA to kind of give some guidance. I don't believe that a policy has been implemented, and so therefore I think that that is something that we do need to work together as a board with administration to see that that is happening. I would say that it AI needs to be implemented. It needs to be allowed. However, it needs to be allowed in a way that is not um, stifling the growth of our students being independent thinkers or being independent writers. And so, what am I saying? We should make sure that our kids are still thinking on their own. We should also be making sure that they're able to solve problems on their own and do and utilize their critical thinking skills. I know writing skills is something that AI is most definitely going to sometimes hurt us in the society period because we can just literally type in a couple prompts and here we have our whole paper for us versus being able to actually put down our thoughts on paper and then possibly just use AI as a guide to help us structure our thoughts. And so I just think a policy has to be implemented, and I look forward to see what we can do to make sure that we merge the two.
Thank you so much. Dr. Camille Johnson, you're next with this question. How should the district approach AI and emerging technologies in the classroom?
So I think that it should be welcomed because, as we all know, we're producing students to go into a global economy. Well, they will be working with everyone and anyone. So AI is going to continue to be present. One of those things, again, like Mr. Sparks said, is we get to put a policy in place, and that policy is probably going to change the more and more we learn about AI. I think with getting that policy in place, we also should think about how we involve the teachers and the staff who are actually in the classrooms with the students to see what tools could be helpful for them. So me as a board member, I couldn't select the tools, but I think the teachers and the staff who are with our students every day could help in selection of those tools and responsible use of those tools. Again, we do need to make sure kids are doing critical thinking, problem solving, but we also want to make sure that they are socializing and they're able to communicate and work with each other. So I think the AI could be important for motivating or helping with stimulating creativity when we're doing projects and when we're learning. But I think it does need to have guardrails. And so we start with the policy and we make sure we're engaging boots on the ground. When I say boots on the ground, people in our kids' lives every day on how we can use AI. And also, we need to create opportunities for parents to learn how AI is being used, to know that AI is not replacing their teachers or their education, and have them be comfortable with what we're doing, exposing children to AI in the school system.
Thank you so much. Erica Miller, you're last on this question. How should the district approach AI and emerging technologies in the classroom?
Okay, well, Roderick and Dr. Johnson have both said a lot of great things. So ditto to what they've said. And what I would add to that, and Camille mentioned guardrails, and that's what I think of when I think of AI. I think it's here to stay. We have to embrace it, right? That's the big piece. And so just getting some guardrails around it. I think that also just teaching students how to use it effectively, appropriately, and responsibly. I think it's important that it's here, so we have to just teach people how to use it properly. So it's not stifling their growth, but it is helping to promote the creativity. I will tell you that my student is dyslexic, my middle kiddo, and so she uses a lot of different technologies to help support her learning. And so I think technologies do belong in the classroom and they do belong in learning. It's just about how we use them. And so for her as a dyslexic learner, she uses a lot of the text to speech type technology. And that supports her learning in a way that if she didn't have that, it would take probably 3 times as long to get through something. So I am pro technology and pro AI. It's about putting those guardrails in place so that our students and our teachers have the comfort level and the parents with being able to use it effectively.
Thank you so much. And Erica Miller, you're going to be the first to answer this question, our new topic. It's the science, history, current events, and culture are constantly evolving. So, how can schools help students learn to become independent thinkers?
Mm. Okay. Well, yes, just like anything in history, everything's always evolving. And so I think that making sure that our teachers have what they need as far as professional development and resources and research and trainings so that they can make sure that all what they have and what they need is available to them to be able to share with our students. And then as far as students goes, I think that when you're in the classroom, you're in the classroom. You're a student, so you're there to learn. And so it's really about that teacher student connection. I think that that's where all of this ends up is making sure that we can help foster that belonging in the classroom, that sense of belonging in your school environment, because we know that all of those things lead to better learners, better academic outcomes when a student feels like they belong. They under, they seek to understand the material. They seek out help and resources when they feel like they are connected with their teachers. So I think that connection point and building that relationship is a key point as well.
Thank you so much. Roderick Sparks, you're next on this question. And it is, with the evolving nature of science, history, current events, and culture, how can schools help students learn to become independent thinkers?
So I think that begins with sharing facts. I think when students are given all of the facts, then we should allow them to think on their own and not tell them how to think. And what I mean by that is when you present all of the evidence around whatever the topic may be for a student, then it's their opportunity to be able to say, okay, now I have my own opinions, I have my own thoughts. And so I believe that that is taking place in our schools. And I think we have to continue to provide those opportunities of even leadership. Giving kids the opportunity to lead some of the discussions versus us them being in the classroom and just hearing lectures, but actually allowing them with the information that they've received to then guide the discussion and being able to see how they formulate their opinions and their thoughts on their own. So that is my basis on making sure that our students are independent thinkers and are actually able to think about whatever the situation may be or the topic may be when it comes to them formulating their own opinions.
Thank you so much. And then Dr. Johnson, same question to you. How can schools help students learn to become independent thinkers?
So I think one of the ways they can do this, and I take this from my years in college, is teaching the children about credible resources. So they do have access to a lot of things on the internet, on the web. We have AI answering your Google questions now. And so I think one of the things we do is teach the kids how to find credible resources and how to dig a little deeper than that first AI answer you get on Google. I can say personally, I do that myself. I get that first answer and then I go digging a little deeper to see. So I think that's important at research. And then with them looking for those additional resources, I think that that can help also teach them critical thinking, or it can also teach them independent thought because they're continuing to ask questions. Is this resource accurate? Is it up to date? Is this the information that I was looking for? Even just, does it sound true? There are times that I read things and it doesn't even sound true. And so I think with kids getting a foundation in school, learning the things from the teachers, the history and the things that we know that the teachers are the credible resources, and then them going out and using those same tools to see when they're looking in libraries, when they're looking at any of the media the content that they have access to. But it's about teaching them how to get those credible resources and how to use those things to formulate their thoughts and opinions.
Thank you so much. Dr. Johnson, you're going to answer the next two questions first.
Okay.
And this question, it's about Prop C. So I'm going to read a definition of Prop C that the League of Women Voters got from the Lee Summit School Board website,
Mhm.
just so that our
Okay.
viewers know what we're talking about. And then I'll ask you a question about it. So here's the
Okay.
definition first. It says Prop C is a statewide 1% sales tax for public education. Voters approved back in 1982. It supports Missouri school districts. Prop C requires school districts to reduce or roll back their local tax levy unless their voters approve a proposition to eliminate or waive that rollback requirement. LSR 7 is asking voters to consider a full waiver of its Prop C rollback. And here's the question.
Yeah.
It's a two-parter.
Okay.
First of all, do you support this waiver? And then secondly, if it passes, will you commit to using the increase in funds for teacher and staff salary increases? Dr. Johnson.
That's like quadruple yeses. Yes, I absolutely support Prop C, and I am grateful that we have this opportunity because there are some districts that don't have this opportunity, this leverage to help support their finances. And two, yes, I am committed to, as well as the district, to support in teacher and staff increases in pay. Right now, without Prop C, we would be looking at pay that is less than the cost of living. So some people on jobs, we are all accustomed to getting raises. We are accustomed to getting cost of living increases. Without Prop C, staff and teachers will not get that cost of living increase. And that's what we would always like to at least match or go above and beyond. And these are people who live in our community. They go to our churches, they're our neighbors, they're our family or friends, and they spend the bulk of the work day with our children and absolutely should be paid accordingly. Can you imagine being a school bus driver? I can't imagine all of those kids, even though it's one of my retirement jobs. It's on my list. But no, overall, yes, I support it. And I am fully committed to making sure it goes to teacher and staff pay. And I have 100% confidence that that's what the district is going to do with it.
Thank you so much. Roderick Sparks, you're next to answer this question. Number one, do you support the waiver for Prop C? And secondly, if it passes, will you commit to using that increase in funds for teacher and staff salary increases?
I absolutely support Prop C full waiver. It is going to provide an additional $4 million to be able to help with salary increases for all of our staff. What I will say is we have to continue to look at ways to increase teacher pay. When we look at our first year teacher that is making roughly $43,000 a year, after spending multiple years in college, many of our first year teachers have acquired college debt. And then not being able to give them a pay that would allow them to live comfortably in the same community that we're asking them to serve in, I believe is very unfair. And so we have to look at ways to be able to have our staff not just being able to work here in Lee Summit or in the surrounding areas that's under LSR 7 school district, but how can they live here? And how can their children being able to take advantage of all of the accommodations that we have out in this community? The second thing that I think that is important to answer is, am I supportive of it completely going to salaries? The answer to that is yes. In 2023, we were able to do $12.5 million towards salaries. And the purpose of that is because we have many positions that are in the bottom third of actually receiving the pay that they actually is at a level that is across our community for those same positions. And so we have to continually looking at those positions that are at the bottom third of making sure that we're paying livable wages for all of our staff. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then Erica Miller, same to you. Do you support this full waiver on Prop C? And if it passes, are you committed to using the increase in funds for teacher and staff salaries?
And like my colleagues have already shared, I am also in 100% agreement. I am personally voting yes on Prop C. I hope everybody on this call is also voting yes on Prop C. We need that money. We need that $4 million. And I am committed to ensuring that it goes to staff salaries. We know that we have three funding sources for district, right? And so this particular funding source this is the local funding source. And this is with that Prop C, it's a stable and dependable funding source. So once we pass this, we've passed it. And we have that funding source. Also, I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that 91% of Missouri school districts already have this. So we're actually one of the very few that don't have this. And it's very important, as my colleagues have shared, that our teachers can live, work, and play in our district. They should be able to do that. But there was just an article in, I think, USA Today that talked about how the majority of teachers have at least 1 to 2 side jobs. So can you imagine teaching in a classroom all day with students, all day, helping kids learn, helping them with emotional needs, helping them with all their needs, and then having to go home and start on your second job or your third job? Our teachers shouldn't have to do that.
Thank you so much. Dr. Johnson, you're going to start this question again. And again, there's a little background. It's about some proposals down in Jefferson City in the State House. It says some of the leaders in Jefferson City are talking about standardizing school board terms to 4 years and requiring candidates to list their political party on their ballot, and then changing elections from April to November. So what are your thoughts on those proposed changes?
So I personally would support a 4 year because I would like to be here longer and not have to rerun every 3 years. But I also believe that stability makes a difference. And when you have a good team of people working together, if you have a good group working together for students, that stability matters. Our school district has seen, since our superintendent has been here, I believe he's had 17 school board members. And that's a lot because every time you bring a school board member on, that is that's uphill in terms of getting them prepared. And I'll be honest, it was in my 3rd year. I was like, Eureka, I know this job and I can do it. And now it's time for me to rerun. At the same time, I totally understand that if there are people on the board who don't support the district and the work that they're trying to do, that can be a rough 4 years. So I support the longer term when the candidate supports the school and the mission in making it be successful. The second question, I'm sorry, could you repeat it again for me?
Yep, it had to do with putting your political party on the
Oh,
ballot.
okay. So school board elections are nonpartisan. This is how they should be. Despite what our society is going through right now, we're supposed to be taking care of all students regardless. So no, I do not support putting your political party on because it doesn't mean that you're not the best person for the job because of the politics that you may support. I don't agree with that at all. And so I don't think that that should be a requirement, especially if you're limited on what you can do in the state of Missouri. If you only have 1 or 2 to pick from, I don't think that that is helpful.
Thank you so much.
Uh,
Roderick Sparks, you'll go next. Thinking about Jefferson City changes to the length of a term, the political party, and then ballots in April or November. What are your thoughts?
So I will say I am Dr. Johnson. I think hit it right on the nose. More time for board members to be able to create stability on the board, and so your first year is literally, especially if you're not familiar with the educational system, you're learning, being able to see how budgeting work for public education. You're learning peers, being able just to be able to deal with personalities and things of that nature, and then you're also just getting poured in with data of where gaps are or where are some opportunities that we should be looking at as a governing board. And so absolutely 4 years. I would even support longer terms for board members so that there could be sustainable cohesive working environment for when we're talking about education. Parties, absolutely not. Public education, period, should not be about what party you're affiliated with. It should be about education and educating all children. And so when we talked about even critical thinking, right, we know that there's biases that come in place. And so someone knowing maybe what party or what president I supported should not take the reins on, do I support public education and do I support making sure education should be for all children? And so, no, I do not support our parties. Last but not least, our elections. Our elections have always been in April. I think they should stay in April. I think when we look at our November elections, we should generally look at that when we talking about a national level.
Thank you so much. Okay, Erica Miller, then the same kind of multi-part question to you. What do you think about the state leaders in Jefferson City making changes to the length of school board terms, political party affiliation on election ballots, and then moving the elections from April to November?
All right. Well, I mean, since I'm going last again, I can say ditto to my colleagues. I agree with them. I mean, I think, the first year and a half of my term, I spent just being inundated with information and learning. And it really wasn't until that moment, that year mark, I guess, that I really started feeling comfortable and confident about my ability to lead well and understand policy and things like that. So I support a longer term. I also don't like campaigning. So as long as I can stay on the board and not campaign, that's what I want to do. I don't agree with putting your party affiliation when you sign up to run. I think that our students don't care if you vote red or blue. They don't care about any of those things. All we need to be all they care about is making sure that they have what they need when they walk in the classroom and make sure they have teachers that care about them and people and staff around them that care. So the political affiliation is not important in my opinion and should not be a part of the conversation. And lastly, I don't believe we should we have April elections. I think those are great. We don't need to compete. In fact, it will cost us more money. Dr. Bucks talked about this. It'll cost us way more money to have an election in November. And so and we'll be competing with the national elections, and that takes away the information that we can share as, candidates and as a district.
Thank you so much. And Erica Miller, now it's your turn to answer the two questions first in a row. So this is
I
the first.
actually like to just go last. I will keep that. I'll
I
keep
know,
that one,
right?
Charlie.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I got to put you on the hot seat, you know? So this question is about literacy. What literacy challenges do students face, and how would you address them? Erica Miller.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest, thank you for asking that question. Literacy is a big deal in my house because, again, I have a dyslexic learner, so that's been something we've had to dive into head first, whether we liked it or not. And so I think that literacy, it's important for us to look at what kids are struggling with and at what point in their educational journey they are struggling with. The great thing is, and I shared this at the beginning with the other question, one of the great things that we have in place in our
Yeah.
district is we have those early educational services like Parents as Teachers, Great Beginnings, our pre-K program that help support literacy at a young age. And I really think that is one of the keys to being able to help our learners at an early age so that they can continue growing as far as their educational journey goes. And I also think that making sure that we are supporting our specialized programs, such as our reading specialist, and our um, the programs that we have that allow for those reading specialists to come into the classroom. It's called Classroom Within a Classroom, CWC, where they can fold into the classroom and support that main teacher and along with all the students in the classroom and figure out which ones are needing the most support. So I think also partnering with other programs in the district that we have for literacy, I think is also important. Yes, there you
Ah,
go.
thank you so much. Dr. Camille Johnson, you're next on this question. What literacy challenges do students face, and how would you approach them?
So I think that there are a myriad of literacy challenges students face because everyone comes from different backgrounds and everyone comes from different households. And sometimes everyone's starting point is different. So you get that classroom full of kindergartners and you have some kids who can read, and then you have some kids still having challenges with saying the alphabet. So I think that's one of the things, and that's why those programs like Parents as Teachers and the early childhood programs are extremely important because everyone's home life is not the same and they don't have the same supports. But when we get them into the school system earlier, we can help address some of those things. I think also what's important about literacy is that our curriculum specialists and our reading specialists continue to look at programming and curriculums that best support our students and what they need to do moving forward. So I know that what we have now called the science of reading that looks at all types of things from comprehension, enunciation of words, understanding of words, and those things are extremely important and they all mesh together. So I think as long as we continue to build programming and have programming that supports our students in the way that they need to be supported. And when I say that, I also mean that it's backed by data or it's backed by previous experiences, knowing that in other districts or in other places this helps and this works for literacy, that is extremely important. And we need to support our teachers. And I think also giving access or providing some resources to the parents or the guardians who are at home with these children to ensure that they have good literacy as well.
Thank you so much. Roderick K. Sparks, you're next here. What literacy challenges do students face and how would you address them?
So this goes into me addressing my why. I was that kid that had reading struggles, and I knew what it was like to be the student, not necessarily being on the governing board looking at data. And what I would tell you is there's a difference. There's a difference when you're a kid sitting in a classroom and you don't know the word that you're expected to then explain or expected to answer a test because you did not comprehend what you was reading. And so with that being said and done, having struggling readers is not new. It's something that has existed for many years. And to Dr. Johnson's point, we have to continually looking at the data and finding out where the gaps are, why do they exist, but then we have to make sure that the resources that we're investing in is actually giving us a return. And the only way to understand that return is being able to see those gaps close when it comes to our peers against each other and looking at other subgroups, depending on if their economic backgrounds are different. So our students that are free and reduced lunch, or even our foreign language students. We have to continually look at ways to be able to close those gaps when it comes to literacy. The other thing that I will say is expertise are the ones that have boots on the ground. There are classroom, there are teachers, there are paraprofessionals. We have to continue giving them the skills and the knowledge and information on being able to identify reading struggles early on when it comes to our students.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Erica Miller, you're going to be the first to answer this question, and it kind of has to do with your whys again. The question is, please tell us about a teacher who inspired your interest in supporting Lee Summit schools.
My goodness. Okay. Well, are you talking about a teacher for like a teacher that I had or a teacher in Lee Summit, or it can be either?
I think it could be either. These are questions we got
Okay.
from the community, so that's a
Well,
good question.
yeah, it's a great question. I mean, let me tell you, my students have had some of the best educators that, I mean, I just feel so grateful. Every day, I just feel so much gratitude for the teachers that are pouring into my kids. My third grader right now, he has a teacher at Longview Farm Elementary, Miss Bloomhorse. I'm going to call her out because she's freaking amazing. Um, Nathan walked in her classroom. He had a tough year last year on second grade. Nathan walked in her classroom this year and she saw him as a student, as a person. She made a decision to get to know him and see him for all the qualities and all the quirks and all the uniqueness that he brought to the classroom. And she used all of his strengths. She's focused on his strengths and she's using his strengths to help support his learning and his educational journey. And today I actually had lunch with Nathan and she came up to me and she said, "You know what? I just want to let you know that Nathan's been such a good helper in the classroom. You know, we have a student that came over from a different country and he's been able to work side by side with them and help him and support his learning." And just for her to be able to, first of all, to tell me that, but for her to see that in my kid, to be able to help support another child, I think that's awesome. So we have so many incredible educators in our district. It's hard to talk about one. We have so many, and they're incredible. So grateful.
That's a great example right there. Dr. Johnson, you're going to be next on that one. Please tell us
Okay.
about a teacher who inspired your interest in supporting Lee Summit schools.
So I would say it started with me in the elementary school. I had a second grade teacher. Her name was Miss Armstrong. I remember that because we would say arm and strong, and we would make a muscle with it. And it was a very loving, it was a good environment. And it was once I came to Lee Summit, though, that I realized the connection between school boards and the support that the teachers need. So I believe that that teacher in that space had the support they needed to support me. And again, that's an assumption. And even if she didn't, I had no idea as a second grade student that that was the case. Now that I'm here in Lee Summit, I too have a 8-year old, and she had a first grade teacher that looped with her to the second grade. Now, I thought this was the best thing ever. I didn't know this was a thing that can happen. And so for the public, looping means that my student has the same teacher from first grade to second grade. So that continuous growth and that stability really makes a difference because that teacher knows my child and my student. And my child is strong willed, not sure where she got that from, but my child is strong willed, and she motivates her and she helps her harness that energy to helping others in the classroom. And so people from my own childhood, teachers, college professors that were extremely important to me, and then coming here and seeing how my own students are being treated, I that's what motivates me to be here in this district because I want to support them as they continue to support my children and my community's children.
Thank you so much. Roderick Sparks, you'll be the last one to answer this question. Tell us about a teacher who inspired your interest in Lee Summit Schools.
So I would tell you, I was blessed to have some great teachers growing up. Am still in communication with a lot of my teachers, even from elementary, that are following me now that I'm an adult and have children of my own. What I would tell you is my first experience for my daughter was during the COVID years, and we were new to the district, fairly new to the district, and my daughter said, "Dad, my teacher is on her way. She just wants to send a heart through the door." And that stuck out to me to this day. And that was with LSR 7. And Miss Madrano is no longer with us. But I will tell you that made such a big impact on my daughter's life because she knew at that moment that she did not care. A teacher did not just care about her through a computer screen, but she was actually cared enough about her to come to her home and to send her a heart through the door.
Thank you so much. Roderick Sparks, you're going to answer this next question first.
All right.
And it gets a little more serious now.
Okay.
Yeah, how would you define the separation of church and state when it comes to public school districts? And kind of what areas do you think would be included in that? Again, I don't, this is a question from the public, but I would think, things like Ten Commandments being posted in the schools, prayers over the loudspeakers, teachers expressing their religious beliefs, things along those lines. But question again, how would you define separation of church and state regarding public school districts, and what areas should or should not be included in that definition? Roderick Sparks.
So my definition of separation of state is there should be a separation. There should be a separation between our personal beliefs and our personal faiths compared to when it comes to us sharing information about multiple religions. One of my favorite classes when I was in school was world religion, because that was my first opportunity of being able to really unpack what others believe. And I will tell you, my teacher did not enforce on us to believe a certain thing. But if anything, we were able to identify some similarities that we may have had with other religions. And so for me, I believe there should be a clear, it is clear and defined of what that separation should be. We should not be imposing our own personal beliefs on any student, and that should not play an impact role within coming into our schools. What I will say is this: if someone has a belief to pray, then I believe they have a right to pray. If someone has a belief to be able to practice their faith of whatever that may be throughout the day, they should also have that right to do so. What I believe that we don't have a right to do is to influence those beliefs or those practices on someone else, or make them feel a certain way because of whatever those beliefs are.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
We're going to go to Erica Miller next. How would you define separation of church and state in regards to public education? And in what areas do you think should or should not be included in that definition?
Yeah, so I believe that it's a pretty simple definition. It's church and state, and they don't really, there's not really a middle. It's this and that, um, and now so I don't. I think that what was the second part of it, Charlie? Is examples of
Yeah.
it? Is that what you
Yeah.
said? I'm
What
sorry.
what areas should be or should not be included in church separation of church and state?
Yeah, I think that one thing I will say about when I think about church and state and when I think about religion or things like that within the school environment or the classroom, I think about curiosity and I think about educating our students about different practices, different religions, different. So I think there's a place for those pieces when we talk about education and staying curious about what does it look like for different religions and different practices. Um, but that's probably where my line is drawn, is with that educational piece. I also do, as Roderick stated, I agree with like if a student wants to practice some type of praying or whatever, I think that's okay. And so I think it's about the curiosity piece, though, teaching others how to be empathetic or understanding of other religious practices that may not be your own.
Thank you so much. Dr. Camille Johnson, how would you
Yeah.
define separation of church and state when it comes to public education, and what areas should be or not be included in that definition?
So I think that the church should absolutely not be included in the public education. And when I say this, it's because of multiple reasons. One, there's what I've learned, there's more than one path to God. And the question would always be for me, how do we decide what is being taught in the schools? There are variations in ways that people practice Christianity. And so, along with that, I think that that's where we draw the line. We can't bring this into the classroom. We don't bring this into the schools, whether it's teachers or other faith leaders bringing this into the public school system. I don't think it should have an influence. But I do agree with Erica in that we should be aware of differences, just like we are aware of differences with skin color, ethnicity, we're aware of differences of socioeconomic status. We should be aware that people have different practices, but we should respect those. We should not impose those on others. So you mentioned specifically the Ten Commandments in classrooms. No, I don't agree with the Ten Commandments being hung in every single classroom because that is not for everyone. Public school is supposed to be accessible to everyone. So I think we should have understanding that there are differences. I think that we should have respect for those, but no, those religious beliefs coming in should not be impacting our kids' education. And we should not start hanging different posters or different programming specific to a religion because, again, there is more than one path to God, and a child should be forced to choose one based on what the state thinks.
Thank you so much.
I
All right,
love the
Doctor.
music. I love the
Yeah, I
music.
know. It adds a little theatrical flair for us
Feel like
here.
you're
Right?
getting an award. Feels like you're getting an award, like, come
Right.
on,
Yeah,
the
right.
Like the
award music is
Grammys.
coming on
Or
Yeah.
is that the music to tell you to be quiet?
to keep,
Because your
yeah, I
Mm.
time
think
is up.
that's it.
Oh, right. Yeah, your speech has gone too
Yes.
long.
Yes.
All right. Well, Dr. Camille Johnson, you'll start us off on this question. It takes us back to Jefferson City, where lawmakers are considering changes to open enrollment. That would allow a student who lives in one school district to attend school in a different public school district. So the question is, what effects would open enrollment have on LSR 7? Dr. Camille Johnson.
So the impacts that would have on LSR 7, one is the big thing we talk about is funding. It's talking about the budget and where the dollars are going in terms of supporting that student. One of the big things is with open enrollment is the transportation piece. So I'm not sure if everyone is aware, but it costs money to hire bus drivers, to buy fuel, and to have buses. And so we consider bringing in children from other places. How does that impact transportation costs, especially when those costs and that funding is being cut? And so I do believe that we should not do open enrollment. And I understand that there are places who do it. because maybe their school districts need such things. Again, just like enrolling in a private school or a charter school, the LSR 7 is a destination district. It is a place that has the resources and we can support our children. And I think we need to keep those resources for the children who live here. I understand that Lee Summit is not maybe first time family homeowners place where they can come, but it is definitely a place that you can aspire to come into. And I think that we come here for a reason, and this is the education we're looking for. And if the state doesn't have ways of providing that funding to keep us whole, then we should not participate in open enrollment.
Thank you so much. Roderick K. Sparks, you'll be the next to answer this question. What effects would open enrollment have on the Lee Summit schools?
So, I first would like to say that I support no legislation that would promote open enrollment. And when I say that, it's not because I don't believe that students should be able to have options or have flexibility. It's because when you look at open enrollment and you look at these bills, they're going to impact our district in multiple ways. Dr. Johnson have already established that transportation will be an issue, but also we have to look at our funding. We also have to look at capacity. And when you look at educating our kids, we know that some of our classrooms are already reaching maximum capacity when it comes to the teacher-student ratio. And so we have to make sure that we are keeping our classrooms at a certain size so that our students are actually maximizing their full potential of learning in the classroom. And so there's a multitude of things that I believe can negatively impact our schools. And so open enrollment is not the option, nor vouchers, which that's a whole nother ball game. So I don't know if you have a question on that. But when you look at vouchers, when you look at open enrollment, these are all things that I think will ultimately hurt and defund public education, that then ultimately then hurts the outcome, educational outcomes for our students.
Thank you. Okay, Erica Miller, same question to you. What effects would open enrollment have on LSR 7 schools?
All right. Well, I think my colleagues have done a great job of lining out what, some of the negative effects. What I will say is, it's no secret that Lee Summit is a destination district, right? So when I think about open enrollment, I think about our schools being flooded with the surrounding districts students. That's because we're a destination district. People want to be here for our incredible resources that we have, like STA Herndon, those types of things, for our teachers and the resources that they're able to provide through education. So this is a destination district. I think I don't support any legislation that would allow open enrollment for our district. And I also think about the crowded classrooms, like Roderick said. I think that our teachers and our classrooms, we have certain sizes that we know that research tells us that are effective for our students to be the best learners they can be. And so overcrowding those classrooms will stretch our teachers thin, will stretch our other special programs thin, our reading specialists, our special education services. All of those things will be stretched thin if we have more students, an influx of students in our buildings.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to use the same order here for this next question. So Dr. Johnson, you'll be first. How will you help students feel safe in high schools if there's fights and bullying?
So I think one of the first things that has been helpful is implementing the cell phone policy. So the cell phone policy prevents them from using those devices during the school day. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't seen scientific data come out about this, but anecdotally, we know that with the cell phones in the classrooms and throughout the school day, you can instigate a lot of things and a lot of conflict between each other, between different classrooms, between different students in the high schools. And so I think that reduces some of that because it's not constantly something that's being egged on through the day. Now, again, we can still do things by word of mouth, but I think that reduces some of that friction. I think also having the cell phones being removed, it can promote communication between the students. It can promote what I think about saying mingling, people talking to each other, people mingling with each other, people getting to know each other, which I think, social media and some things have taken us away from that. We've kind of gone inside versus going outside. And I think getting to know each other and understanding each other comes through communication and talking to people. I think we also need to make sure that we have the right security measures in place and the right things in place to detect if there are issues with vaping or drugs or anything like that, which can also cause conflict. And making sure that if our children are needing help, if they're struggling with anything mentally, that's where they really need the supports, is getting down to the root of where some of this is coming from and helping them with those challenges, not just punishing them for when those things are happening.
Thank you very much. Roderick K. Sparks, we're going to move to you with this question. How will you help students feel safe in high schools if there are fights and bullying?
Safety of our students should be a priority every single day for us as a district. Bullying should be not tolerated at all. What I will say is, as a board, it is our job to make sure that there are policies that are created and in place and then also enforced fairly and equally across our entire district for every single one of our buildings. And so that is the first thing that I believe that has to take place, is that we have good policies and that they're making sure that they're being implemented in a very fair and just way. The other thing that I would like to share is that we know that we have students that come from all walks of life, and the way that conflict is handled is different for many of us. And so we have to make sure that what's in place is restorative practices. And then there's ways to be able to have conversations with students on being able to muster the avenues of being able to deal with your emotions and your feelings and your disagreements, because disagreements happen and they're going to happen all the time. But the question becomes is, how do you deal with them when we disagree? Does it become physical? Or are we able to have conversations that will be able to guide us on how we move forward? And so I just believe that there should be discipline established for actions that we're not expecting and that we do not appreciate, but then there also should be restorative practices for all of our students.
Thank you so much. Erica Miller now, same to you. How will you help students feel safe in high schools if there's fights and bullying?
Yeah, I think safety is obviously it's a critical component of any learning environment, any environment, right? I mean, that's where I'm a therapist by training, and so we think of Maslow's. If you guys are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, safety is at that foundational level for people to be able to function. And so I think that one of the ways that we can do that within our district, specifically at the high school level, is, and some of this is already happening with our implementation of clubs and different things that students can get involved in to have a sense of belonging. I think it starts with increasing that sense of belonging. I also think it's about teaching students critical thinking skills, teaching students coping skills. Like when I feel mad, this is how it feels in my body, and this is how I respond. These are things that sometimes adults don't even know how to do. So I think helping our students understand critical thinking, problem solving skills, coping skills, I think that's some of the foundational pieces that can really support a safer environment, whether it's psychological safety, physical safety, emotional safety. Those are all at the root of making sure that students feel like they belong and they are safe in the classroom and at school.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, Roderick, you'll answer this next question first. How will you collaborate with your board peers, both inside and outside of meetings, especially with those board members with whom you do not agree? Roderick K. Sparks.
Well, I first want to make clear that we all agree. When you serve on the board, you all agree, and you just should all just say yay when it's time to vote. No, that does not happen. I think the I think the important thing to do is to stay focused on your goals. And the goals should always be to make sure that every kid receive an education that is going to allow them to make the best decisions in life with whatever path they decide to take. And so I think if we keep the goal, and the priorities, then what we will see is majority of the conversations that are had will be more productive. We're just going to have conversations on what is the pathway to get there. And so that's the biggest approach that I believe to bring individuals that don't agree together. I think also there should be transparent collaboration. And so that means that we are a board of 7. So all 7 board members deserve the same information. So there should not be, just because this side has board leadership roles, then they're the only ones that have this information. But all 7 should be provided all the same information so that we can actually have the same starting ground when it comes to formulating our thoughts and our opinions. The other thing that I believe would be great is so often, anytime you got 4 board members, you now have an official meeting, you have a quorum, and so it is hard to get us all together. But when we do have those opportunities to be together, that we're also trying to build a surface of a relationship so that we can be able to have disagreements in a very professional way.
Thank you. Dr. Camille Johnson, you're next here. How will you collaborate with your board peers, both inside and outside of meetings, especially with those board members with whom you do not agree?
Okay, so this is something that I learned actually being on a board. It came from one of the district leaders that we have to make sure we're focusing on being hard on the issues and not on people. I keep that in the back of my mind at all times, and I think it's still very similar to even what Mr. Sparks said in terms of we're focused on the goal, and the goal is to provide education for the students. So I think we can talk to each other. Again, the transparency matters, all of us having the same information. And when we're in meetings, we establish these board norms. Everyone probably doesn't know this, but some of the board norms are, being prepared. So when you're coming to the meetings, being prepared so that you're able to have thoughtful conversations and discussions. It's respecting other board members. I'm highly paraphrasing, but respecting the other board members and what their input is. And so I think that those things help too. Remind ourselves of what those norms are, communicate with each other. And also, I think what has been helpful when we have a meeting where there has been some disagreement and we walk away, when we walk away, we don't walk away mad. Kind of like you don't go to bed mad with your spouse or your partner. When we walk away, we don't walk away mad. One of my board members, we pounded out at the end. I say it repeatedly because we typically don't see eye to eye on issues, but it's the issue. It is not that person and what that person has done to me or anyone else. So I think that's important. That after the meeting, you got to say, you know what, good job. We didn't agree. We agreed to disagree, but we're still going to do the right thing for the kids. At the end of the day, when we sit at that kitchen table, 99% of the things that we want for our children are the same.
Thank you so much. Okay, Erica Miller, then this question goes to you. How will you collaborate with your board peers, both inside and outside of the meetings, especially with those peers with whom you do not agree?
All right. Well, I think it's a great question. I think that, when you're doing this work, you have to every day be reminded of your why. And if we stick with the why and not why we disagree, I think that's where we can find the most common ground. So staying focused on that, I think, is important. Being able to have those thoughtful conversations, even ahead of time, I think is helpful. I also think one of the things that we talked about in our board retreat this last year and that we just implemented, so we just started on this, which I'm really excited, is some team building and interacting, because all we've done, we come in, we get elected, we start doing the work, and that's it. So I think getting to know each other, getting to understand our leadership styles, what makes us tick, what triggers us, how we work best together. I think those are the things that can help support a stronger board collaboration effort, is if we can start getting to know each other on a different level. And so some of that work has started, and so I'm excited to see where that goes. And then also, once we make a decision, the decision's the decision, and we move on. Once the board votes, the board is voted. And like Dr. Johnson said, we attack the issues, not the people. I think that's another key focus point when we're on the dais and when we're not on the dais. So.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, well, that's going to wrap up our questions portion. And now I want to move into the 2-minute closing remarks part of tonight. So I personally want to thank all of you for joining us. And I would ask all the candidates here to please let everybody in your network to watch this recording on YouTube between now and Election Day. We'll get that up there tomorrow, and you can just go to youtube.com/LWVKC and share that link with folks. And of course, encourage all your citizens that you interact with in the next couple of weeks to go vote, right? And exercise that right. Okay, so now we're going to begin with our closing remarks. You get a little bit longer this time, and we're going to start with Dr. Camille Johnson.
Okay. All right. So I'm Dr. Camille Johnson, and I am running for a second term with the LSR 7 Board of Education. With me, I bring professionalism, I bring experience, I bring institutional knowledge, and I have shown that I can collaborate and work with others for the greater good of our children and our students. I'm a mother in the district. I have 2 children here. I moved to Lee Summit from Philadelphia, and I was told that this was the place to be, and Lee Summit has definitely shown me that this is the place to be. I believe that education is a right, and so that's one of the reasons I participate in the school board, and I volunteer and I give my time. The same within my professional life. I'm a pharmacist. I believe that healthcare is a right. So my work and my play, you can say, are both committed to helping people one way or another, whether it's health or education. I want to be here for our students because public education is pivotal. It's extremely important for everyone to have access. I came through the public education system, and most of my colleagues and most people I know do. While there is a place for charter schools and private schools, my heart is with public schools. So I want to make sure we maintain that funding. Also, again, extremely important, as we said here, the people who touch our kids' lives every single day deserve to live, play, eat, and Lee Summit, just like our slogan says. And I want them to continue to stay in our neighborhoods. And so, with that, they should be paid appropriately. They should be paid competitive wages so that they can continue to do that. I also believe that all of our children should have access to all of the resources that we have in LSR 7. LSR 7 does have an abundance of resources, and there are quite a few people who have the know and they know how to get those resources. But we do have groups that don't know how to get those resources. They don't even know that they're available, and those children could be missing out. So I want to work better to get those things for those children. And then lastly, our budget, being fiscally responsible. There are many attacks on public education and our funding. And as the funding dwindles, so does the resources that we put into our children. And we have to protect those things. I am asking for
Thank you.
your vote on April 7th. Vote yes on Prop C.
Thank you so much. Erica Miller, you're next with 2 minutes for closing statements.
All right. Well, again, Erica Miller, and I am excited to be on this journey again. I had no idea what I was getting into 3 years ago, and I can absolutely say that I love it. I love being able to be in the classroom with students and support teachers and also advocate for families. As I shared with you all, I have 3 kids in the district, and they're a huge part of my why, right? Because I want to make sure that not just my kids, but every kid each has everything that they need to be successful. And we have so many incredible resources here in Lee Summit in LSR 7 for our students to access. And so I want to make sure that all of our students and all of our families understand all of the resources that are available to them. Some of my key points that I really have focused on, I'm a licensed therapist, and so mental health services is something that I believe is important for us to have for our students, and just expanding those supports, whether it be bullying prevention, whether it be substance use prevention, whether it be suicide prevention. Those are all key things for our students to learn and have access to. Also, supporting our teachers, right? Supporting our teachers and staff, who are the heart and foundation of the work that's done in this district. And they pour in every single day to make sure that our students have what they need to be successful. So really making sure that we're supporting our teachers and staff. And lastly, special education services. My student has access to them. I think that all students should be able to feel supported with special education services in our district, and families should have help advocating for their students. So I love this district. I love this work. I want to continue to serve in this way, and I would love to have your vote on April 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. Roderick K. Sparks, your 2 minutes for closing remarks begins now.
I would like to again take this time to thank the Women League of Voters for giving us this opportunity to be able to share. Charlie, you did a great job for moderating, so thank you for your time. Tonight, I think that it was important for the voters to see what happened. And what you saw was 3 qualified individuals ready to serve on day one. They showed up. That's the first thing they did. And what I would tell you is I stand by my record. I will show up, I will listen, and I will do the job that it takes every single day to make sure that the needs of our staff and our students get exactly what they need so that they're prepared for life. We have to make sure, with all of the attacks that are coming up against public education, that you have individuals that can stand up on day one and advocate in Jeff City. You need to make sure that the decisions that come to the dais, that there's board members that know how to look at the budget. They know where the gaps are. They know the direction that the district is trying to go in, and that are ready to support on day one. What you're going to get is what you've seen. You're going to see support for our teachers with being able to try to do everything we can to increase their pay. What you're going to see is individuals showing up in Jeff City to make sure that we're advocating for public education and that we're talking to legislators, no matter if they're on the left or the right, but are you going to do what's in the best interest of all of our students? You're going to see board members, myself, that will be in the community, that will talk to any parent that reaches out to them via email, via phone, via walking in the park. If you want to talk about education, there's always opportunities for us to do better. And so that is what I'm wanting us to do, is for you to support me in 3 more years on the Board of Education so that we can make sure that all kids get exactly what they need and what they deserve. So I'm asking on April the 7th that you please check the box for Rod Sparks on April 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you to all the candidates for your time today and for bringing your answers and expertise to the forum. I now want to bring back in Anitra Steele from the League of Women Voters to wrap things up for us.
Thank you, audience, for your interest in the April 7th election. A recording of this forum will be available on the League's website, lwvkc.org. Please take a moment to share our forums via your Facebook, Nextdoor, and other social media channels. And remember, for voting and candidate information, visit lwvkc.org and vote411.org. Thank you. Good night.